To get started with sketching in Fusion 360, I want to set the stage for why sketching is important, as well as explain some of the best approaches for creating sketches. To begin, I'd like to discuss the role of sketching in CAD. Sketches are the foundation for creating some of the most important three-dimensional features. Sketches are typically comprised of two-dimensional sketch entities created on either a plane or an existing flat face of a part. Then the user creates sketch elements by either drawing them or using existing geometry. Once a sketch is created, it can be used as a profile to create a 3D feature. These profiles are pulled outward, either linearly or along a curved path, which creates unique, solid geometry based on the sketch. Sketches are extremely powerful when created from existing geometry. By selecting existing vertices, edges, and faces in the model, the geometry can be copied and adjusted in the sketch. For instance, the Offset tool can copy the outer edges of a face and simultaneously reduce or expand the sketch profile. In this case, it was used to quickly create a cutout inside the part by copying the outer edges. These sketch entities also remain linked back to the original geometry, which means that if the original geometry is modified, the sketch will update as well. This greatly aids in keeping the model up to date when changes are made. Now that you're a bit more familiar with sketching, I'll demonstrate some of these aspects by creating some sketches and some 3D features from those sketches. Here, I have a blank Fusion 360 document. To begin creating a model, I can start sketching on any of the three default planes. The view automatically rotates to look directly at the sketch plane, where I can begin adding 2D sketch entities. For instance, I can draw a hexagon. I want to make a quick note here that drawing sketch entities centered on the origin is often considered best practice in the software and can provide a number of advantages later on in the modeling process. Now that the hexagon is drawn, I can continue adding other sketch elements, such as a circle. To start the circle command, I'll right-click to access the marking menu, which is a quick access group of commands available at any time. I'll move down to the Sketch Tools and click on the Circle command. I'll draw this circle centered on the origin once again. These sketch entities are controlled in a couple of ways, using constraints and dimensions to relate the geometry and set the sizing. It's considered best practice to apply constraints first, which are rules applied to relate the geometry in the model. For instance, I can select the horizontal-vertical constraint, and then I'll select this line at the top to make it horizontal. Now this line will remain horizontal, even when I try to move the hexagon by dragging one of the corners. Dimensions can also be applied to set the sizing of sketch elements. For instance, I can specify how large the diameter of the circle is, as well as defining the length of a side of the hexagon. Now the sketch is more defined and can be controlled by adjusting these constraints and dimensions. I'll click Stop Sketch to exit the sketch environment. Now this sketch can be used to create a 3D feature. This sketch has two enclosed profiles, which I can pull outward by using the Press Pull command. Notice the two profiles I can select to create the 3D feature, either the inside of the circle or the profile between the circle and the hexagon. Because Fusion 360 allows you to select individual profiles in a sketch, you have much more control over how the sketch creates 3D features. I'll select this profile, then pull it out into a 3D feature, and click to finish the Press Pull command. Now that the 3D feature is created, I'd like to showcase how important the sketch is when controlling the 3D geometry in parametric modeling. If I edit the sketch and change one of the dimensions, such as the diameter of the circle, the 3D feature automatically updates and reflects the change made in the sketch. This 3D geometry will always be linked back to the sketch, allowing for a number of changes to be made at the sketch level. Now that you've seen how 2D sketches drive 3D features, I'll switch over to another design to show you how a single sketch can be used to create multiple 3D features using different profiles. The sketch shown here has a few circular profiles and a tab extending at the top. along with a line on the left that will be used to create a revolve feature. This will be the first 3D feature I'll create from this sketch. So I'll go ahead and enable the command from the Create drop-down menu. And I can begin selecting closed profiles within the sketch. I can select as many as I need until I get the correct collective profile. As a side note, it's typically easiest to select all of your profiles from the top of the screen down to the bottom. I'll quickly finish this 3D feature by selecting the axis of revolution, as well as change a few parameters for the feature. Now that I've created the first feature, I can create a second feature from the same sketch. To make this easier, I'll hide all of the bodies in the model, and I'll make sure the original sketch is visible. I'll use the press-pull command to create the second feature, which I can access directly from the marking menu. Then select the profiles I'd like to pull upward, turn visibility of the bodies back on, adjust a few parameters, and click OK. Now both 3D features are included in the model, driven by a single sketch. Before wrapping up, I'd like to show you how to quickly create a sketch using existing geometry. I'll create a sketch on this top face that will cut back down through the part. First, I'll make sure the sketches are displayed. I'll create a new sketch on this face, and to create the sketch, I'll offset the outer edges 5 millimeters inward. Now, I'll use the press-pull command to cut down into the part and adjust a few parameters for the feature. I was able to quickly create a new sketch and a new feature using existing geometry. This can be done by creating a new sketch on any flat face in the part. As you can see, sketches are powerful and allow customized 2D geometry to drive 3D features.